Hi everyone, it's Elle, and today I wanted to make a video about something specific to lesbian lore or history or whatever, which is the Lesbian Masterdoc. And I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on it because a lot of people think that because it was created by someone who later realized that she was bisexual, that what she said doesn't stand anymore. And I disagree with that because I am a lesbian, and this document helped me so much, to be honest, figure out some of the emotions I'd been feeling. And I already knew I was a lesbian when I read it, but it was just so validating to know that a lot of other lesbians had experienced these emotions that made it so hard to figure out who we were, because I was identifying as bi for a good few years before I realized I was a lesbian. And a lot of it was due to compulsory heterosexuality, which is a concept that the Lesbian Masterdoc addresses. So I still think it's a valuable resource. Don't cancel me. But I wanted to sorry, I have some hair oil in my hair that I'm letting sit in it before I shower. So if my hair looks greasy, that's why. But I just wanted to kind of come on here and go through the Lesbian Masterdoc and talk a little bit about what compulsory heterosexuality is, because I know it's a concept that a lot of people deal with and that a lot of people find really validating when they find out that it is not just them that feel that way. So first of all, let's talk about what Comphet is, what a lot of people call it, but for short, but it's technically stands for compulsory heterosexuality. So compulsory basically means something is like forced upon you. And it's not something that you like chose. And then heterosexuality is obviously being straight. So in society, a lot of the times you're fed messages as a child that straightness is the default, or that straight is the right thing to be, or that you know, being straight is good and being anything else is bad, or you don't even know that anything else exists. And so it just is basically the concept that we're fed so many messages like that throughout our early life that it's really hard to undo them and unlearn them and kind of untangle what was your experience and what your true thoughts and desires are versus what you've internalized from society telling you should think a certain way. And so yeah, but it affects people of every gender that are queer. But I think that it affects, it affects, I would say, like lesbians and gay men probably the most, because like we have any attraction to the opposite gender at all. I think I understand some people say that it affects other identities, like bisexual people as well, and I'm not bisexual, so I can't really like weigh in on that, but I think that it can affect lots of different people, and yeah, it's also pretty tied in with misogyny, like a lot of homophobic concepts are, or transphobic concepts are. And yeah, I think that especially as women, or people who were assigned female at birth, or people who were, you know, socialized as women at any point in their life, you are fed a lot of messages that, like, you know, your worth is tied to men, or making a man happy, or ending up with a man, or finding a boyfriend, or finding a husband, or whatever. And so I think a lot of it has to do with misogyny as well. But I'm just going to go through this Masterdoc really quick. So that's what compulsory heterosexuality is, which is something that the Masterdoc talks about heavily. I will also link the Masterdoc down below if any of you guys want to read it, because it was a Google Doc originally, and I couldn't find it on Google Docs anymore, but I could find it on DocDroid, this website that I found. So I will link it so you guys can read it yourself if you'd like to. But it basically goes through, how do I know if I'm a lesbian? And the part that I want to get to is some of the things that you might feel, that you might be thinking are attraction towards men, but it's actually Comphet. Because this really helped me a lot. When I thought that I was bi, I knew I liked girls from a very, very young age, but I didn't know how I felt about boys. And I thought, like, well, maybe there's a boy out there somewhere that I like, or maybe I do like boys. And I wasn't sure. And I felt like bisexual was not there was just something about that label that didn't feel quite right to me, but I didn't know what else to call myself. And then I started untangling the experiences I had with boys versus the experiences I had with girls and the emotions behind both of them. And I realized that I didn't have any true emotion, true romantic feelings for boys ever. And at this point I was like 20 or 21. And so I was like, well, I don't think that I like boys at all then. I had known I liked girls since I was like 5. I just didn't know how I felt about boys. It took me a very long time to figure that out. So I had come out as bisexual when I was, I think, 17. But I knew I was bi. I was calling myself bi in my head since I was probably like 12 or 13. I came out when I was 17, and then I came out again when I was like 20 or 21 and was like, just kidding, I'm actually a lesbian. So, yeah. But the first thing that they say is, but I like fictional men and male celebrities. So I personally feel like that's a little bit different than liking a man in real life, because they're not real. So it's like you kind of like something that's unattainable, and sometimes that's like more comfortable than liking somebody in real life. Yeah, I think it's normal to have conflicting feelings about men. Personally, I find that my like experiences towards men are more just like, I can understand when a man is an attractive human being because like I have eyes, but I don't feel any sort of like, because I think anyone of any gender and sexuality can recognize when anyone of any gender and sexuality is attractive, even if they're not attracted to them. So like a straight girl can look at a girl and be like, wow, she's pretty, but doesn't want to kiss her. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about men. Like if one of my straight girl friends is like, that guy is so hot, I can look at him and be like, I see what you mean. Like I can see how he's a good looking human being, but I don't want to touch him. I don't want to date him. I don't want anything. It's not romantic for me at all. It's just aesthetic. Like a straight girl thinks another girl is pretty, but doesn't want anything further than that. So, yeah. Yes, signs of Comphet is where we really get into it. And I thought I wanted to talk about Comphet for a long time in a video, but this is such a comprehensive list of the things that are considered Comphet, and I thought that this was such a good thing to like kind of go through in a video and read, because it's a better list of examples than I could have come up with myself. So credit to the person who wrote this. Yeah, attraction to men is the first heading, and then it says deciding which guys to be attracted to, not to date but to be attracted to, based on how well they match a mental list of attractive qualities. You have a list of impossible criteria in your head that a man must meet for you to be attracted to him, and if you ever meet someone who matches all the criteria, you just add more impossible standards. So I didn't really do the standards thing growing up, but I did definitely, my hair is bugging me so bad, I'm so sorry. I did definitely choose what boys to be attracted to based on who my friends thought were cute or who liked me. So yeah. I'm constantly testing my attraction to men. I pick one and more conventionally attractive men in the room and try to force myself to be attracted to them. Yes. I like the idea of being with a man, but anytime a man makes a move on me, I get incredibly uncomfortable. Yeah, I used to feel that way a lot. Like, I would like the idea of someone pursuing me, a man pursuing me, or a boy in high school especially, like, pursuing me, and then when they actually would, I would be like, oh, actually, I'm really uncomfortable. And I did actually force myself to date a boy for quite a long time, and he was super nice, and I liked him as a friend, but looking back, I only liked him as a friend. I do not like the reality of men, only the idea of being with men. I like the idea of marrying a man and being in a relationship with a man, but I can always pick out a reason to not want to date any man that is interested in me and any man suggested to me. These reasons are sometimes reasonable, but often insignificant, i.e. I don't like guys who do their hair like that. He has a weird mole on his face. He's too tall. Yeah. I can fantasize about men and find men attractive, but thinking about realistically it being with a man makes my stomach churn. Yes. I only developing attraction to a guy after a female friend expresses attraction to him. Yeah, that was a big thing for me. I was like, oh, okay, I guess, sure. I like getting attention from men and being validated in my attractiveness, but the moment it goes from attention to interaction, like from flirting to asking out, I start panicking. Getting jealous of a specific female friend's relationships with guys and assuming you must be attracted to the guy she's with, even if you never really noticed them before she was interested in them. Yeah, that's common, but usually you actually like the girl. You view relationships with men as a chore, burden, and just something you must deal with. Yeah. Confusing a strong emotional connection and dependency with a man for romantic feelings can be due to mental illness. You get crushes on just about every guy you are friendly with because there's really no difference between friendships and crushes to you. Yeah, that was a big thing for me when I was younger. You feel like you could theoretically be attracted to men. You may even have fantasies about them, but in practice, you never really have any feelings for them. Picking a guy at random to be attracted to, choosing to be attracted to a guy at all, not just choosing to act on it, but flipping your attraction on like a switch. That's a common lesbian thing. Having such high standards that literally no guy meets them and feeling no spark of attraction to any guy who doesn't meet them. You're far more certain about being attracted to women than you are about being attracted to men. Yes, that was me. That was like the epitome of me. My attraction for girls has always been extremely genuine and extremely easy to pinpoint because I felt such genuine crush feelings of like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous around this person. This person makes me happy. I get excited to see them. You know how you feel when you have a crush. So that was the easier part to figure out. And with guys, there's just nothing there. So I was like, is there something? Is there not? There's not. Because if you have to force it, it's not real. Only and mostly being into guys who are gender nonconforming and feminine in some way. Alternatively, with the guys I like are always hyper masculine man's man who embodies everything about manliness. You want to date and fall in love and get married and have children and etc. with a guy, but the guy you dream about is never specific and may as well be a cardboard cutout. Yeah, or they are like a faceless, blank kind of stand-in. All of my fantasies around men are always with faceless, nameless men. Yeah. The more realistic the fantasy and the more details about my partner I invent, the less excited and into it I become. Only and mostly being attracted to unattainable, disinterested, and fictional guys and guys who you are never and rarely interact with, such as teachers, married and older men, and men that live far away. Yeah, because then you don't ever actually have to do anything. Similar to only crushing on famous and fictional men, the men you like may be gay and in relationships, as they are also unattainable if they are in a relationship. You may even start to wonder if it's actually the woman you have a crush on. It probably is. You lose all attraction and get extremely uncomfortable if there are any implications that they might like you back. You get deeply uncomfortable and losing all interest in these unattainable guys if they ever indicate they might reciprocate. You make mistakes. You may mistake the desire for male approval as attraction. That was also a big thing for me. You don't necessarily want a relationship with men. You want men to want a relationship with you. Because I felt like maybe if a guy liked me enough or gave me enough like attention or validation, maybe I would like him. It doesn't work like that, but I thought when I was a kid that maybe it did. Reading your anxiety, discomfort, nervousness, and combativeness around men as attraction to them, confusing your anxiety around men for butterflies and being flustered. Yes, I used to do that when I was first starting out dating and I was first dating boys in high school before I ever started dating girls. I was like, oh, I just don't have a lot of experience and I'm nervous. No, it was more than that. Reading a desire to be attracted to men. Reading a desire to be attractive to men as attraction to them. Having a lot of your guy crushes later turn out to be transgender women. You wish you weren't attracted to men and you wish you were a lesbian. I think it's so interesting when people say they wish they were a lesbian because I'm like, well, maybe you are. Like if you know what I mean? Have you thought about maybe you are? Like if you think that, I wish so much that I could be this. Well, that's probably because you do feel that way. It's worth looking into. Also, even if you're not a lesbian, if you like girls, you can just choose to date only girls. That's okay too. You don't have to date men. No one's like sitting there with a gun to your head, you know? Hopefully. Sorry, I felt like that was disrespectful. I didn't mean it like that. Okay, relationships with men. Dreading what feels like an inevitable domestic future with a man. Yes, from the time I was a little child, when I was like 6, I was like, I am never getting married because I thought you could only marry a boy. Also, I'm old, and at the time you really could only marry a boy. I was born in 97, so marriage equality did not get legalized nationwide until I was like in high school. So when I was a kid and I was saying this, I was saying it because it was true. Like, I don't want to marry a boy because I don't want to get married because I don't want to marry a boy. The idea of living with a man for the rest of my life made me very uncomfortable. The idea of living with a girl felt amazing, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll just live with my best friend forever. I wanted a wife. I just didn't know that that was an option. And looking forward to an idealized version of it that resembles literally no male and female relationship you've ever seen in your life, never being able to picture any man you've actually met in that image. You have every reason to be happy in your relationship with a man, but you just aren't, and everything is going really well, but something is missing and you can't figure out what. Yeah. Being repulsed by the dynamics of most and all in real life male and female relationships you've seen, and regularly feeling like maybe it works for them, but I never want my relationship to be like that. Thinking you are commitment phobic because no relationship, no matter how great the guy, feels quite right, and you drag your feet when it comes to time to escalate it. Going along with escalation because it seems like the appropriate time, and because the guy wants it so bad, even if you personally aren't quite ready to say I love you and have labels and move in together, etc. And jumping ahead and trying to rush to the comfortably settled part of relationships with guys, trying to make a relationship a done deal without investing time into the emotional closeness. Yeah, I did that. Your relationship with men are devoid of passion, feeling like you have to have relationships with guys and let them get serious in order to prove something, maybe something nebulous you can't identify. That was a big one for me, for sure. Only having online relationships with guys, preferring not to look at the guys you're interacting with online, choosing not to meet up with a guy, even if you seem very into him and he reciprocates and meeting up is totally realistic. That was something, because when I was in high school, and still even now, Snapchat was like a big thing, and so sometimes I'd be like snapping a guy, and he would send me, like, it would be great, I'd be enjoying the conversation and like just the chat part, and then he would send a picture of like his face or something, and I'd be like, oh, ew, what? Like, it would ruin it for me. Oh man. Getting a boyfriend mostly so other people know you have a boyfriend, and not really being interested in him romantically and sexually. Very much that. Wishing your boyfriend was more like your female friends. Yeah. Wishing your boyfriend was less interested in romance and sex with you, and that you could just hang out as pals. Am I allowed to say that word on YouTube, or will I get flagged? I don't know. We'll change it if I have to say it again. Thinking you're really in love with a guy, but being able to get over him in such record time that you pretend to be more affected than you are, so your friends don't think you're heartless. I literally did that. It's been a while since I've read this, actually. This is funny. After a breakup, missing having a boyfriend more than you miss the specific guy you were with. Worrying that you're broken inside and unable to really love anyone. Okay. S, we'll call it S, and intimacy with men. Having S with not out of desire for the physical pleasure and emotional closeness, but because you like feeling wanted, and preferring to be a tease to feel wanted, but feeling like following through is a chore. Having it to be drunk and high to do that. The idea of kissing, cuddling, dating, and other things with men is really scary and anxiety inducing, and the idea of doing any of those things with women isn't, and is noticeably less scary. Your fantasies about men still somehow turn out to be a little gay. Maybe this gets a little bit like, I'll link it if you guys want to read it, but it gets a little bit into like actual specifics of like, I just am afraid YouTube is going to be like, hey, that's inappropriate. But just like not wanting to look at his face, like altering your thoughts to make them like a little queer coded, even if they're surrounding a man. Thinking because you don't like and pursue S with men, you must be asexual, and vice versa with romance for men. Your fantasies about men give you intense distress and anxiety. They could be intrusive thoughts, forms of self-harm, and otherwise. Yeah, heavy on the SH aspect. When I think about guys, I think about all the things that I could tolerate doing with them, dating, kissing, marriage, but always in terms of what I could force myself to do, not what I want to do. Being around guys that are interested in me gives me intense anxiety. Feeling weird and wrong, calling your past boyfriends and pet names and showing them public displays of affection, but gladly showing your girlfriends PDA. Big one, yeah. Like, pet names especially was really hard for me when I dated a boy, whereas when I date girls, it's like very natural. Only being comfortable with intimacy with men if there's an extreme power imbalance and your desires aren't centered. Using it with men as a form of self-harm. You don't have much of an emotional reaction to kissing and being otherwise physical with a man, and you even dislike and hate it. Feeling numb and dissociating and crying during and after it with men, even if you don't understand that reaction and think you're fine and crying, etc., for no reason. That has happened to me before. Yes. Being bored with with men and not understanding what the big deal is that makes other women want it. Doing doing it anyway out of obligation and a desire to be a good sport and do something nice for him. Never and rarely having fantasies about specific men, preferring to leave them as undetailed as possible and not thinking about men at all. Having it to make a concerted effort to fantasize about the guy you were attracted to. Yes. I would literally be like, I should be thinking about this boy and how excited I am to like see him or whatever because I'm dating him. And I would like start thinking and like romanticizing certain situations, and then it would be a girl in his place. And I'd be like, no. Think about him. You're dating him. And it wouldn't be a specific girl. It'd be like a girl that I made up or something. But I'd be like, why can't I do that? I couldn't do it. That started to scare me. Early interest in women. Not recognizing passing current crushes on women until you've come to grips with your attraction to women. Being unusually competitive, shy, and eager to impress specific women when you're not that way with anyone else. Yeah. Wanting to kiss your female best friend on the mouth for literally any reason to practice with for boys included. Getting butterflies and feeling like you can't get close enough when cuddling with a close female friend. Looking at a close female friend and feeling something in your chest clench up and being overwhelmed with love for her, love you may read as platonic. Having had strong and abiding feelings of admiration for a specific female teacher, actor, etc. growing up that were deep and reverent. Having had an unusually close relationship with a female friend growing up that was different and special in a way you couldn't articulate. Thinking relationships would be simpler if only I were attracted to women, and my best friend too would be perfect for me if she and I weren't a girl. Yes. I never had that thought myself, but I had that said to me by someone who we were both clearly closeted and had like a little bit of a situationship going on that neither of us wanted to admit was real. And I hope she's doing okay, because last time I checked, she was still dating a boy. This was in middle school. But she was like, neither of us were out even to ourselves, but looking back, I'm like, that was gay as hell. And one time she looked at me and was like, I wish you were a boy, because I wish that I could date you, basically. She was like, I wish I could find a boy that was you, but as a boy. And I'm like, she just had a crush on me. Like, and I had a crush on her too. But we were like 13, so we just kind of never really addressed that. When a female friend is treated badly by a man, having your protective thoughts turn in the direction of, if I was him and a man, I'd never do that to her and my girlfriend. Yes, I still think that, actually. I have like very protective instincts over women, and like I see men do things and I'm like, I would never do that. Being utterly fascinated by any lesbians you know and see in media and thinking they're all ultra cool people. Having your favorite character in every show be that one gay-coded and butch-looking woman like Shigo from Kim Possible and a Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica. That was very me. I loved any queer media or queer-coded media or older people that I went to school with. Like when I was in middle school, the high schoolers were on our bus as well as the middle schoolers. And so when I would see like older high schoolers that were out and stuff, I would be like, oh my God, that's the coolest person in the world. So feeling weirdly guilty and uncomfortable in locker rooms, etc., when your female friends are less clothed than they normally would be around men, and being more careful not to look than they are. The straight version of you. Thinking that all straight girls feel at least some attraction to women. That's a common one I hear a lot, actually, from people still. Like, oh, well, everybody likes girls a little bit. I think you're just a little gay. It's okay. Thinking that your interest in seeing attractive women and scantily clad women and, women's bodies is an artificial reaction caused by the objectification of women in media. Being really into how women look aesthetically and just as an artistic interest. Thinking it's objective and uncontested that almost all women are way more attractive than most men. That is such a big one for me. Like, I believe that that's factually true, but that's just because I'm attracted to women. Being a really intense LGBT plus ally and getting weirdly emotional about homophobia, but assuming you're just a really good ally and very empathetic. That was me. Having like half your friend group from school turn out to be LGBTQ plus. That's also true. Getting emotional and having a strong reaction you don't understand to female and female love stories, etc. I was almost like afraid of it because it stirred up emotions in me that I didn't want to confront. And so I would almost be like, oh, turn it off. I'm having too many feelings. I got over that, obviously, and now I purposely seek out queer media because I feel represented by it. But closeted me was like nervous around that stuff. Having had people think you were gay when you had no suspicion you were gay. Yes, I literally had classmates ask me that. And I've always been very feminine. And a lot of straight people are really bad at telling the difference between a straight girl and a femme. But for some reason, I like pinged certain people's gaydar because I was asked that multiple times. I was like, no. And then it turns out they were right. Exploring attraction to women. Feeling like you could live with a woman in a romantic way, even if you aren't imagining doing anything like S with a woman. Feeling like you could enjoy interactions with a woman, even if you can't imagine having romantic feelings for a woman. Thinking you couldn't be a lesbian because you're not attractive enough, cool enough, and otherwise in the same league as most of the women you know. That's sad. Interacting with heterosexual romance stuff in media by imagining yourself in the man's position. Yeah, that was a big one for me. And just never and rarely imagining yourself in the woman's position. Yes, because a lot of times I'd be looking at the girl and I'd be like, in like movies and stuff like that, and everyone would be like, oh, I wish I was this girl. And I'm like, oh, I don't wish I was a boy. I like being a girl, but I wish I was in the boy's position, if that makes sense. Because I think that girl is beautiful and I would love to date her. Really focusing on the woman and heterosexual PORN. Being really into the idea of kissing and being sexual with a woman to turn guys on. Being really annoyed when guys actually do express interest in watching and joining when you do that. Only feeling and expressing attraction to and sexual interest in women when you're inebriated and otherwise impaired. Yeah. I make out with girls when I'm drunk to being queer pipeline, like, tale as old as time. Seeing a relationship between two women elicits a much stronger and more real emotional reaction than heterosexual relationships ever do. 100%. You get anxiety around men and feel more comfortable in settings with women. You have very high standards for men you might date and comparatively lower standards when it comes to women. Being mistaken for a couple with one of your girlfriends is exciting for you, and being mistaken for a couple with one of your guy friends elicits no reaction. It feels weird and wrong. None of your girls' friends' partners are ever good enough for them, and you take it very personally, and you don't feel the same way about the men you're friends with. Gender feelings. Having a lot of conflicting gender feelings that are only possible to resolve once you understand you are and can be a lesbian. Thinking that being gender non-conforming and feeling a disconnect from traditional womanhood mean that you can't be a woman, even if that's what feels closest to right. Many lesbians are GNC, and many lesbians feel disconnected from traditional womanhood since it's so bound up in heteropatriarchy. Yeah, it's also possible to be a lesbian and be trans or non-binary. So sometimes people have like the layered experience of having to figure out their sexuality and their gender. So knowing you're attracted to women and not being able to parse that, especially, and any gender nonconformance as a gay, taking a long time to figure out if you're a straight man and a lesbian. Being dysphoric about the parts of you that make straight men think your body is owed to them, having to figure out what that dysphoria means for and to you. Yes, I have a little bit of an issue with, I like my body, I like being a girl, I wouldn't want to be a boy, but I feel very uncomfortable with the parts of me that are sexualized because they're often sexualized by people I have no attraction to, and that feels really gross. Knowing you're attracted to women but feeling weirdly guilty and uncomfortable trying to interact with them as a straight man, and only later realizing you were actually a trans lesbian. Knowing you are gay but experiencing a lot of the symptoms of Comphet when you try to interact with men romantically and sexually, and only later realizing you're a trans lesbian and not a gay man. Being non-binary and taking a long time to sort through being able to respect and understand your non-binary identity and your lesbianness at the same time. Yeah, so those are like, there's added parts of the equation for a lot of people as well. Considering lesbianism, wanting to be a lesbian, but feeling like you don't already know you are one, you can't be. Feeling guilty about wanting to be a lesbian, feeling like you're just attention seeking and trying to be trendy. You think and fear that you might be a lesbian, and you find yourself somewhat constantly and desperately at trying to prove to yourself that you're not. Yeah, that was me for a long time. I grew up in kind of a homophobic town, which like didn't help. Suppressing your lesbian dreams because you think exploring that desire would mean you're a bad and homophobic person, using lesbianness selfishly, also that. Wishing you were a lesbian to escape the discomfort of dating men. Sorry, I've been recovering from bronchitis, so if I'm coughing, that's why. Fantasizing about how much fun it would be to be a lesbian and just be with a woman and a specific woman, but thinking that can't be for you. Worrying that some of your past attraction to men was actually real, so you can't be a lesbian. Worrying that because you can't be 100% sure you're not attracted to men and can't be 100% sure you won't change your mind, you can't be a lesbian. That was me at the tail end of identifying as bisexual. I was like, but what if there's one man? No, there probably isn't at this point. At this point, I'm 29. I've still never had attraction to a man, so I don't think it's going to happen. Worrying that you only want to be a lesbian because of trauma, and that means your lesbianness would be fake. Worrying that trauma-induced complications in how you experience S, like a habit of self-harming via S with men and a fear of any at all, meant you're not a real lesbian. Okay, so those are like the bullet point list that she made. And then there's also a little bit of a section about like attraction versus Comphet. So nervousness and blushing. I'm just going to skim through some of these parts. You can read them in detail where I link it down below. But actual attraction when it comes to nervousness and blushing is like you're nervous because you're excited and you find somebody attractive, and because you find them attractive, you're nervous. Comphet nervousness and blushing is more like you feel uncomfortable with the fact that someone is paying attention to you and maybe you don't really like them, and you feel self-conscious and you're uncomfortable. Hypothetical attraction, actual, when it comes to a future with a man, if you actually feel attracted to men, you would imagine your future with them where you're excited to be with a man and you feel good and happy and excited about that, and it's nice and it's comforting to think about that because that's the future that you want. Versus Comphet, when you're thinking about your future with a man, you feel uncomfortable and sad and like almost let down, and it's upsetting to think about it and you don't want it to happen, or you would rather just end up by yourself or, you know, with a female roommate or something. There's a lot about like sexual fantasies, which I won't get into on here because it's a little much. But in summary, there's a good like TLDR section at the end. If you think that you wish you were a lesbian, men are okay in theory but bad in practice, you wish you could you feel like you could live with a woman in a romantic way, you feel like you lose interest in men as soon as they seem interested in you. As a child, you never wanted to get married. You just cannot picture a future with a man. You don't like the idea of being with a man, etc., etc. This is a very long section. It's like 4, 5, 6 pages. But yeah, just that kind of concept. And so in conclusion, Comphet is a really hard thing to work through because it's hard. A lot of it does feel real. So it's really hard to sift through what is real attraction, what is real feelings, versus what is pushed onto you by society so much that you internalized it so much that you think that it's real. And that was one of the biggest parts of my like coming out journey was I literally had to like sit down and go through in my mind like everyone I had a crush on in my life, and whether or not I remember feeling, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, I'm so excited to see this person, I can't wait to sit next to them and talk to them, and she's so pretty and whatever, versus like, I did that with this person because I felt like I was supposed to. And you didn't really feel much at all. All the things I felt the first way about, all the people I felt the first way about, like, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm so excited, I can't wait to see this person, they make me so happy, I'm like, I think they're so cute, was always girls and some non-binary people, because a lot of lesbians are non-binary. And then all of the emotions where I was like, well, I did that because my friend said that he liked me, so I thought like maybe I should just try it. That was like always boys. So then I was like, okay, I think I'm just a lesbian. Anyway, compulsory heterosexuality is a really interesting concept to me because it's had such an impact on my life. And it's unfortunate, it's terrible that it exists, but it's very validating and reassuring to me to be able to research that concept and recognize that so many people feel that way as well, or have felt that way. I don't really deal with it anymore, but I've been gay for a while now. But people who did feel that way at the beginning, and it's really interesting to read about, and so I wanted to make a little video about it. And the Lesbian Masterdoc is the best way I've seen it summed up. But there are also other things that could be considered Comphet that you might experience. This list is not like comprehensive, but I will link it below if you want to read the whole entire article. It is 31 pages, so it's quite long, but it's a really good read if you are struggling to kind of like decipher how you identify, which obviously there's no pressure to like pick a label, but I'm someone who likes having words to describe my experience. So I was very like, I need to figure out what I am. And this was really helpful for me. So if you think this would be helpful for you, I hope that this video was, and that maybe this master doc will be as well. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.